I woke up to the sound of soft whispers, then a moan that didn't come from me. At first, I thought it was the damn TV. Maybe Amber forgot to turn off one of her late-night romance dramas. I reached out, half asleep, but the space beside me was cold. Empty. I blinked. The glow wasn't from a screen. It was from my own bedroom lamp, dimmed and casting slow-moving shadows on the wall. Then I saw them. My wife, Amber, bent over the edge of our bed, right where I sleep. And some guy, tall, shirtless, with his hands gripping her hips like he owned the place. Their sounds were raw, muffled, desperate, not even trying to be quiet. On my damn bed. I couldn't breathe. I didn't move. I froze in disbelief. My heart pounded so loud I was afraid they'd hear it. My throat dried up. My fist clenched, nails cutting into my palms. And yet, I watched. She had her hair tied up the way I like it. That was my shirt on the floor. That was my cologne on her neck. And he was using the blanket I bought her for her birthday. I felt my soul dislocate from my body in that moment. I slid off the couch. I'd fallen asleep there watching a game. She thought I was out cold. Quiet like a shadow, I crawled down the hall. I couldn't even cry. Not yet. I just needed to understand. I needed to see her face. What kind of woman does this while her husband is in the house? Amber. That's who. I backed away before they noticed, walked out the front door barefoot, and sat on the porch in the cold. My phone buzzed. A text from her. Don't wait up, babe. I'm at Lindsay's. I laughed. And that laugh turned into a sound I didn't recognize. Not quite a cry, not a scream either. Just a broken noise from a man who just lost his world in the ugliest way. I didn't go back in. I stayed out there until the sun rose. When I stepped back inside, she was gone. Sheets twisted, perfume choking the air, my dignity left bleeding in that room. I showered, threw every piece of her clothing into trash bags, and took them to the garage. I didn't say a word. I didn't leave a note. But I wasn't done. That morning, I visited an old friend, Danny, a tech guy who owed me a favor. He hooked me up with a couple of smart home tricks. Hidden camera, voice recorder, motion sensor under the mattress. I told him I'd explain later. I came home and set the trap. But the worst wasn't what I'd seen. It was what I heard days later. I'd been sleeping at a motel by then, letting her think I was just working late. She didn't suspect a thing. One night, I dropped by my parents' house to grab a few things. I walked in and paused at the kitchen. Voices. My mom. My wife. And the sentence that shattered me. How is your date, dear? Is he a better lover than my loser son? Amber's voice, light, laughing. Yes, Mom. And I thank you for setting us up. My breath caught in my chest. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just stood there, paralyzed, holding my car keys like a weapon. My own mother. Setting my wife up with someone else. That was the night I packed up and vanished. But before I left, I made sure to set the trap. In her bed. The bed where she betrayed me. She didn't contact me. Not for 6 months. And I didn't care until the day my mother called, voice trembling with rage, and said, "How could you do that to her, you bastard?" I sat on the motel floor in silence, trying to make sense of her words. She didn't even ask why I left. She didn't ask what her daughter-in-law had done. She just defended her. Karma had arrived. But not for her. Not yet. For now, it was my move. And I wasn't done playing. For 6 months, I didn't hear a damn thing from Amber. Not a text. Not a call. Not even a single curse-filled email, which would have been more her style. The silence was suspicious, almost too perfect. And when something's too perfect, it usually stinks. But I didn't reach out. Instead, I lived in a one-bedroom rental with creaky floors and paper-thin walls. I worked construction during the day and ran deliveries at night just to keep my mind occupied. I became a ghost with a pulse, breathing but not alive. Just waiting. See, I knew what I did before I left would eventually explode. I just didn't expect it to take that long. That trap I mentioned? Yeah, I rigged our bed to record every motion, every sound, every damn lie whispered in that house. She had no idea. The day I left, I changed the settings on our smart home system. Synced everything to my backup cloud. All I had to do was wait and check the footage every now and then. And what I saw, it got darker each time. Different men. Same routine. Same bed. Sometimes more than one at once. Sometimes while FaceTiming one and being with another. She wasn't just unfaithful, she was gleeful about it. I watched her laugh about me. Mock my job, my looks, my family. She even called me a neutered little boy during one of her wine-fueled rants with her best friend. But what cut the deepest? Hearing her say she never loved me. that she only married me for stability. I thought he'd be rich someday. Turns out he's just stable, she said, sipping from a wine glass. Thanks for the setup, Mom. That one line played in my head like a scratched CD. Over and over. I didn't sleep right for weeks. But the day karma came, that was different. It started with a call from my mother. She didn't even ask how I was. How could you do that to her? She barked before I could say hello. What are you talking about? She said you sabotaged her bed, left a trap that injured someone. What? She had to take her new boyfriend to the ER, Alex. He nearly got impaled. I laughed. I didn't mean to, but I laughed hard. It bubbled out of me like poison finally draining. Because I knew exactly what happened. That trap wasn't physical. No nails, no knives, nothing dangerous. Just a series of recorded messages that played when weight hit certain parts of the mattress. My voice edited over time, each one revealing a little more. Message 1. Hope he's better than me. Message 2. You lied to my face, Amber. Every night. Every damn kiss. Message 3. Smile for the camera. I layered them to trigger one after another. And apparently, the guy freaked out so badly, he leapt off the bed, slipped on wine, and landed on a shattered glass frame I left near the nightstand, accidentally. That was on him. Why would you do that? Mom cried. She said she was trying to move on it. With the guy you set her up with? I shot back. Dead silence. You think I didn't hear you too? In the kitchen? You called me a loser. She hung up. And I sat there, holding my phone, heart pounding like I'd just run a marathon. That was the day I realized I wasn't sad anymore. I was angry, focused, awake, and for the first time in months, I felt like myself again. Because now it wasn't about heartbreak. It was about payback. And I had a full collection of videos, audios, and dirty secrets ready to be used. Amber thought I'd disappear quietly. She didn't know me at all. After that call with my mother, something inside me clicked. I wasn't the broken man she thought she'd left behind. I wasn't the stable placeholder waiting for his wife to come home after playing dress-up in someone else's bed. No, I had evolved. I was no longer licking wounds. I was sharpening knives. Amber's betrayal had burned through every ounce of love I ever had for her. What was left behind wasn't sadness. It was strategy. And now that she'd crossed every damn line, it was time to start playing a new game on my terms. First, I went through the footage again. Not to punish myself with more images. I had already seen more than enough. No, this time I cataloged it, labeled it, created folders with names and dates. I even gave them titles like Amber's Thursday Therapy and Weekend Warriors Compilation. It was sick, yeah, but it was also ammunition. Her lovers? Oh, they were interesting. One was our neighbor. Married. Another was her yoga instructor, whose wife followed me on Facebook. One was her boss at the design firm, the same one who offered me a job 2 years ago when we were all friendly. The same guy who once toasted to our marriage at our anniversary dinner. I felt my fist clench just thinking about it. So, I sent out little gifts. Anonymous, of course. One flash drive to the boss's wife, complete with timestamps. One manila envelope to the yoga guy's wife, with a printed screenshot of Amber wearing nothing but her wedding ring. And the neighbor? Well, I left a USB in his mailbox with a sticky note. Your wife deserves better. So do I. 3 days later, I heard from an old friend, Lisa. She was Amber's ex-college roommate, and a savage when she wanted to be. We hadn't spoken since the wedding. I heard about the files, she said without saying how. I kept quiet. I want in. Why? I asked, suspicious. She laughed. Because I always knew she was a snake. And I've been waiting for someone to finally cut off her head. We met for coffee the next day. Lisa handed me a folder. Inside were screenshots of Amber's private messages with multiple guys, including some during our engagement. She was cheating before you even said, I do, Lisa said. Thought you should know the truth. All of it. I didn't cry. I just nodded. Because by then, I had no tears left. Just gasoline. And now someone had handed me a match. Lisa became my inside woman. She still had access to Amber's social circle group chats, Instagram DMs, even her hairdresser, who apparently heard every dirty secret during appointments. You want to destroy her? Lisa asked. No, I replied. I want her to destroy herself. And she would. You see, people like Amber don't implode on their own. They need help. A little pressure. A little exposure. A mirror held up to their worst self. So, I started small. Sent anonymous emails to her job. Nothing crazy, Just a couple of photos that made her look unprofessional. The kind of thing that made HR nervous. I leaked a short clip to an online forum, blurry, but unmistakably her, in our bedroom, calling me a useless sack of furniture. The video got shared. Someone tagged her workplace. Amber freaked. I knew because Lisa texted me. She's unraveling. She called the police. Filed a report about revenge porn. But guess what? Everything I released was within legal bounds. No names, no identifying information. And all from a house I owned, with security systems I installed. I hadn't broken the law. I just opened the curtain. By the end of the week, she posted a tearful Instagram video about being violated and trusting the wrong people. Comments were split, some supportive, others ruthless. Amber was losing control. And I was just getting started. Amber always thought she was untouchable. She walked through life like the world owed her something, smiling just enough to manipulate, lying just enough to stay ahead. But now, her empire was cracking, and the queen was panicking. Lisa kept me updated with daily reports. She deleted half her posts, she texted one morning, and she blocked 3 exes who were liking the comments under the video. Amber's perfectly curated online image, sunsets, smoothies, yoga poses, was turning into a battlefield of passive-aggressive captions and shady emojis. I watched it all unfold from a distance, sipping coffee and feeling more alive than I had in months. But it wasn't just her social media burning. Her job got shaky. Apparently, the HR team at her design firm wasn't thrilled with the attention. Even though she wasn't named directly, the whispers were loud. Clients started asking questions. One even backed out of a contract after recognizing her voice in one of the clips. Then came the internal review. Lisa overheard Amber on the phone screaming at someone from her firm. "They're acting like I did something wrong," she snapped. "I'm the victim here." Victim? That word hit me like a slap. I remembered her voice whispering, harder, to someone who wasn't me. Remembered how she used my cologne on other men. Remembered her laughing about me with her mother in the kitchen I remodeled with my bare hands. Yeah, some victim. But I stayed quiet. I hadn't responded to her or my mom. I hadn't posted, called, or shown my face. That silence? It drove her insane. One night, Lisa messaged, "She's spiraling. She thinks you're behind it but can't prove it." Good. That was the point. I didn't need to shout. I just needed her to feel it. The same way I did when I stood outside our bedroom and watched her betray me, while I was still breathing under the same roof. But then, something unexpected happened. She called me. Blocked number. I didn't recognize it at first. I let it go to voicemail. The message was short. "Alex, please. I know you're out there. I just want to talk." Her voice cracked, and for a moment, I almost believed it. But then she added, "This isn't fair. You're ruining everything." And there it was. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "I miss you." Just, "You're ruining everything." Like I was the villain in her twisted little movie. I saved the voicemail, labeled it Classic Amber, and kept it for the archive. A few days later, I got another call, this time from my Uncle Mark, the only guy in the family I still respected. "She called your mom crying," he said. "Told her she's getting threats online." From me. I asked. "No. Randoms. Trolls. Strangers. But she thinks you started it." I didn't. "I know. But Alex, are you going to stop?" That question sat with me. Was I? I'd exposed her lies, her infidelity, her double life. I'd let the world see what kind of woman she really was. But the truth? It still didn't feel like enough. Amber hadn't changed. She was just cornered. There's a difference. She didn't regret what she did. She regretted getting caught. So, I didn't answer Mark. Instead, I opened my laptop, checked the folder labeled Amber, untouched, and clicked on the file I hadn't dared to open yet. Weddingvows.mp4. There she was, smiling, glowing, holding my hands in hers, telling me how much she loved me, promising loyalty, faith, a future. I watched the whole thing in silence. When it ended, I whispered to the empty room, "You killed that version of you." And I deleted it. No backup. No copy. That woman was dead. The one who replaced her? She had no idea what was coming next. 2 weeks after that voicemail, Amber made her next move. She showed up. It was a Thursday, late afternoon. I'd just gotten home from work, still wearing my dirty boots, sweat clinging to my back. The last person I expected to see at my door was the woman who'd shattered my life like cheap glass. She was standing there in jeans and a hoodie, no makeup, something I hadn't seen since our first year of dating. Her eyes were puffy. She clutched a coffee like it was the only thing holding her together, Alex, she started. I didn't speak. Can I come in? I let her stand there in silence for 10 long seconds. Then I stepped aside without a word and pointed toward the couch. She sat down like she didn't know if the floor might swallow her. I didn't come to fight, she said, fidgeting with the sleeve of her hoodie. I came to talk. You've got 5 minutes. Amber looked up at me like she didn't recognize who I'd become. Maybe she didn't. Maybe she still pictured the man who bent over backward to please her, who worked extra shifts so she could chase her boutique interior design dreams. The man who cooked, cleaned, and defended her even when my own mother raised doubts. Everything's falling apart, she whispered. My job, they suspended me indefinitely. Someone hacked my email. My parents won't speak to me. Good, I said flatly. She blinked. Alex, please. I never wanted to hurt you. Things happened. I tilted my head. Things happened. She nodded, and for a second, the old manipulation flared behind her eyes. You were always so busy. You didn't make me feel seen. I felt like I was just existing beside you. I laughed. Loud. Bitter. I was too busy trying to build a life for us, Amber, while you were out there feeling seen by half the damn city. She flinched, but didn't deny it. I know about them all, I said. Ryan. Derek. The neighbor. Your boss. Hell, even that greasy yoga guy. I made mistakes, she murmured. No. Mistakes are forgetting to fill the gas tank. You made choices. Repeated, deliberate choices to lie, cheat, and humiliate me. Tears welled in her eyes. But I didn't move. I didn't comfort her. Not anymore. I was angry, she said. At myself. At you. At life. Then why did you smile during it? She looked away. Yeah. I saw those clips, Amber. I saw your smirks, your giddy post-game selfies, the way you toasted to your new lovers with my wine. You weren't hurting. You were thriving. Until now. Is this revenge? She asked quietly. What you're doing online? I didn't answer. Let her sit in the unknown. Alex. I need you to stop. Now she was begging, but not for forgiveness. For silence. She didn't care about me. She cared about her image, her future, her damn brand deals. I stood and walked to the door. You should go. She stood too, but didn't move toward the exit. I'm scared. You should be. Her face twisted, like she didn't know whether to scream or sob. Are you going to ruin me? No, I said, opening the door. I'm going to let you ruin yourself. I just handed you the shovel. She left without another word. When the door closed behind her, I didn't feel triumph. I felt empty, but also clean. For the first time, I'd faced her without flinching. No more pretending. No more begging for answers. She gave me all the answers I'd ever need. Now it was just a matter of time. And I had plenty. After that visit, Amber vanished again. No calls. No messages. Nothing but the quiet ripple she left behind, except now, the ripple was turning into waves. Social media was burning with whispers, reposts, and anonymous DMs. People were beginning to piece things together. She wasn't the victim anymore. She was the spectacle. Lisa kept me in the loop with everything. Apparently, the fallout at Amber's workplace had gotten worse. A few coworkers had started connecting dots, especially after someone leaked screenshots of her chats with the boss. HR launched a full-blown internal inquiry. Rumor is, he's been placed on leave too, Lisa messaged me one night. She's radioactive now. Good. It was never about revenge for me. Not in the beginning. I just wanted to feel something again. But now that her lies were dragging others down with her, I started to understand something bigger. She was always a virus. She infected every space she entered. She corrupted people, twisted them. And like most viruses, she wore a beautiful disguise. The messages started coming in, anonymous accounts, burner profiles, even mutual friends. One girl messaged, I'm sorry, I hooked up with Amber once while you were together. I didn't know she was married until afterward. Another guy wrote, she said you abused her, that you were controlling and cold. She told me she was a survivor. I sat in my kitchen stunned. She wasn't just cheating. She was rewriting history to justify it. It made me wonder how many people out there thought I was the monster. I could have responded, posted the full videos, named names, burned her world to ash in one single drop. But I didn't. Because truth? It doesn't need a narrator. It just needs oxygen. And Amber was giving it plenty. A few days later, I got an email from a podcast producer. Some relationship drama show that thrives on scandal. Hi Alex, we've received a tip about your story. Would you be open to a private, anonymous interview? We'll disguise your voice. No names. Just your perspective. I didn't answer right away. Part of me wanted to scream it from rooftops. But the other part? The one that had been watching this slow-motion car crash unfold? He wanted to stay in the shadows. Observe. Let her keep guessing. Instead, I sent the email to Lisa. She replied, "Let me handle this." And she did. The podcast aired 2 weeks later. The story was told from a man whose wife and mother conspired behind his back. They kept it classy, but brutal. They used quotes from the kitchen conversation, even referenced the trap in the bed. Listeners were hooked. Reddit threads blew up. People speculated, argued, dissected every detail. And best of all, they still didn't know it was me. But Amber did. She posted some cryptic quotes about forgiveness and God's timing on her Instagram. She went dark for 3 days after that, then came back with a rebrand, new profile picture, new handle, new tagline, stronger, wiser, unapologetic. Unapologetic. That one word told me everything. She hadn't changed. She was just building a new mask. But this time, I wasn't the one behind it. She'd have to wear her new face in a world that had already seen the real one. And all I had to do now was wait for the next crack. Because people like Amber, they always break again. It had been a month since the podcast aired. A month since Amber tried to reinvent herself as a phoenix rising from the ashes, only this phoenix was built from lies, betrayal, and the hollow echoes of her own delusions. But no matter how much she tried to spin it, the world had already seen the footage, heard the words, dug through the dirt she buried with glitter. Now it was just a waiting game. Lisa kept feeding me updates like breadcrumbs. She enjoyed watching Amber unravel almost as much as I did. Maybe more. She had her own demons with Amber, stories I hadn't even heard when we were married. Amber stole her ex-boyfriend, spread rumors about her during college, blacklisted her from a design job once just to win some petty argument. The woman had been leaving scars long before me. But karma? She was hungry. And Amber was finally on the menu. The first crack came quietly. An old friend of Amber's, Carly, posted a TikTok story titled, "The Truth About the Unapologetic Girl You Follow." It started with a soft voice and a confession. I know what she did to her husband. I know because I watched her do it. I watched her lie, cheat, manipulate people, and then laugh about it like it was a game. The video went viral. And once the dam broke, it didn't stop. More followed. Threads on Twitter. Comments on Instagram. Private DMs that leaked. Screenshots of old texts where Amber trashed her coworkers, slut-shamed her own friends, even mocked me for being the kind of guy who cries after movies. Spoiler, I don't cry after movies. But I did cry after watching my wife laugh while another man touched her in the bed I bought. Meanwhile, Amber tried to keep up appearances. She posted motivational quotes, shared photos of sunsets with captions like, "Growth is painful but worth it," and "Healing is my new aesthetic." But her likes were dropping. Her comments section turned into a battlefield. Every time she posted, someone would tag the podcast. Others dropped snake emojis. Some went nuclear with screenshots from the past. She turned them off eventually, then made her account private. Then a radio silence. Lisa texted, "She's hiding. I think she's planning something." "She always is," I replied. But I was done playing offense. I'd made my point. Amber had spent her life constructing mirrors, surfaces that showed people exactly what they wanted to see. She was always the perfect girlfriend, the stylish wife, the fun friend. But now, every mirror was shattered. All that was left was the mess behind the glass. And then came the bombshell. Lisa called me, breathless. Amber's been dropped from a brand deal. Apparently, one of her lover's wives went public and said she was the reason their marriage ended. Screenshots and all. The company issued a statement. "We do not condone the exploitation of others for personal gain." I didn't cheer, didn't smile. I just sat there on my couch, staring at the wall, thinking about the first time I met Amber. How she tucked her hair behind her ear when she laughed. How she made me feel like the only man in the world. None of it was real. And somehow, that still stung. But I wasn't bitter. Not anymore. I had climbed out of the pit she pushed me into. I'd seen her true face, and I survived. She, on the other hand, had to live with hers. Forever. And I wasn't done yet. Because there was still one final thing she didn't know. And it was going to change everything. Amber had no idea what was coming. She thought she was crawling her way back into control, building another version of herself from the leftover scraps of broken mirrors and filtered lies. But there was one last thing I'd kept hidden. One piece I never revealed. A final card I saved for when I knew the timing was perfect. And now, it was perfect. See, months ago, right after I left her, right after I set the trap, I hired a private investigator. Not just to catch her cheating. That part was already crystal clear. No, I hired him for something bigger. I wanted to know where the money went. Because somewhere in the chaos, I'd noticed something off. Credit card statements didn't add up. Joint account withdrawals. Charges from spas I'd never heard of. Flights she said were for, work retreats, jewelry that never made it home. She was stealing from me. Not just my dignity. Not just my trust. Cold, hard cash. And the PI? He found it all. Hidden Venmo transactions. Private accounts. Even PayPal invoices labeled as interior design consultation sent from men I recognized from the videos. She was charging them for services. Some of them were married. Most were older. A few? Wealthy. Amber had turned our marriage into a business. And I was the silent investor. I never said a word. Not to Lisa. Not to my mother. Not even to the PI after he delivered the final report. Because I knew I'd only get one shot to use it. I waited. Waited until the podcast had simmered. Until her brand deals had dried up. Until her social circle was thin to dust. Until she was truly alone. Then I sent the file. Not to her. But to the IRS. With a copy to her former employer. And one final envelope with photos, statements, and screen recordings sent to her parents. Hand-delivered. Certified. It took 3 days. On the 4th, Lisa messaged me. It's happening. Amber went live. Her eyes were red. She looked exhausted. Hair unwashed. No makeup. No soft lighting. Just a raw, stripped-down version of the woman who once walked red carpets and posed in hotel bathtubs for Instagram likes. I don't know who's doing this, she said, voice shaking. But I'm being targeted. My accounts are frozen. My parents have disowned me. My legal team quit. And her voice cracked. There's an investigation now. Into taxes and other things. She swallowed hard. I'm sorry, okay? I made mistakes. I'm not perfect. But this is torture. She paused, then looked directly at the camera. Alex, if this is you, please. I'm begging you. I loved you. I stared at the screen. She was finally saying it. Not because she meant it, but because she was losing everything. And still, somehow, she thought I'd come back. That I'd drop my sword. That I'd save her from the fire she built with her own hands. She didn't understand. I wasn't watching her burn. I was watching her finally stand in it. I didn't comment. I didn't message. I just closed my laptop and stood in the quiet of my apartment, the apartment I paid for, furnished, and cleaned myself. The one where no one was lying to me anymore. The peace was unfamiliar, but real. And in that moment, I realized something. She never broke me. She built me. Not the version she wanted, the soft, agreeable one who ignored the signs, but the version who finally woke up. The one who knew how to let go. Not with anger, but with silence. That was the real ending. No explosion. No courtroom drama. Just a woman left with everything she created. And a man walking away from the ashes. Free.